Welcome to Dump Truck Toolbox. I'm Alan, and today we're going to be talking about blind spots. Thank you for joining me on the channel today. We're going to be talking about blind spots. I'm going to give you some ideas of the challenges that you face as a dump truck driver, seeing behind and beside the vehicle, and then some ways you might be able to deal with the blind spots. This truck in front of me, we have a great view of. I've pulled up and can see them quite clearly out my front window. The front window is not usually the problem for visibility. It's the side and the back, and that's what we're going to be looking at today. Here's a graphic I created of an overhead view of my big orange dump truck. We're going to look at 3 different zones that you need to pay attention to as you drive down the road. First zone is in front of the truck. In many ways, this is the easiest and most natural one to pay attention to. The windshield is really designed for good visibility to the front of the truck. Key task in scanning is to look for hazards and then prepare for them, and I have a whole video on hazards. 2 key ideas are, first of all, to change your focal distance. So don't just stare at the bumper of the vehicle in front of you. Pay attention to that, obviously, but then look further down the road, maybe 100 feet down the road, and then look almost as far as you can, a quarter of a mile or more down the road as well. And you're looking for individual hazards, and then you're looking for choke points where multiple hazards come together, so that you have time to prepare the appropriate response to them. But the front of the truck is not the only area we should be concerned about. On each side of the dump truck are large and potentially hazardous blind spots. Lots of moving hazards can move into these blind spots, and unless you take the appropriate action, you may not be aware that they're even there. Also, the blind spots could cover certain fixed hazards, which you've probably just driven by, but for example, you may be making a tight turn and something at the corner of the intersection, the curb, a light pole, a fire hydrant, could be in your blind spot, and you may end up turning too sharply and potentially hitting it. Part of the sections in these 2 side blind spots, you can use your mirrors to keep track of things. And you want to be attentive. You want to track vehicles as they move into the view of your mirror. And you need to have a sort of a mental map of what vehicles have been coming up on the left side or the right side, so that when they do move into the blind spot not covered by your mirror, you won't forget about them. There is a large blind spot on the curb side of the truck that the mirror is really not going to be much help in. And that is very dangerous if you're driving, for example, with an empty lane to your right. I prefer to drive in the right-hand lane whenever it is feasible and safe. On interstates, sometimes I'll move into the middle lane if there's a lot of traffic coming off a ramp, but I almost always make my way back to the right lane, just so that red area doesn't hide a moving hazard, a car, a truck, or a motorcycle. There are also blind spots that occur because of your mirrors. Likewise, the A-pillars create other blind spots. If you keep your head still, things can absolutely disappear in these blind spots. Especially dangerous is an intersection. A vehicle coming from the left or the right may disappear into the blind spot, and you may think it's clear and pull out, and all too late you'll find out actually there's a vehicle coming. Even worse is when a pedestrian comes into a blind spot. There's an unfortunate occurrence where, especially making a left turn through an intersection, it is possible to have a pedestrian who's crossing the street in front of your vehicle, and they start in the blind spot, and the speed they're walking and the speed you turn, they stay in the blind spot, potentially until it's too late and something really unfortunate can happen. The way to overcome this is to rock and roll. And so I'm going to roll my neck, but I'm also going to rock forward and back and do it a couple times, especially for me when I am making a turn onto a busy street. I'm going to rock and roll, going to look left and right and left again. I'm looking for oncoming cars, for pedestrians, for whatever. And by rocking, I'm moving my head so the blind spot doesn't go away, it just moves, and eventually I get a reasonably clear view of everything on both sides. There is, in my vehicle, and I think probably in many dump trucks, a small cone of visibility. If you look over your right shoulder and look through the back window, there's this space between the corner of the bed and the edge of the rear window, and you get that little blue cone there. That's not super useful moving down the road in my experience. It is potentially useful, though, when you're trying to back up, trying to orient, maybe to a milling machine or fitting the truck in. You check your mirror and then you look through the back window just to get a little more visibility, a slightly larger area there. Okay, there are three areas of the truck that the structure of the truck itself blocks your vision. There's the rear of the truck, there is the curb side of the truck, and then there's the area in front of the hood. In the back of the truck, there is no way to put your eyes on what's back there. There's one solution that you can use on any truck, which is goal, get out and look. There is a technology solution which can work for the back of the truck and for the curbside blind spot, and that is a video camera. I'm a very big fan of backup cameras. It allows you to identify that there's an issue, an object or a person behind your vehicle, which hopefully will lead you to stop or to move the vehicle in a way that is safe. One of the companies I used to work for had a policy that said if you do not have a functioning backup camera on your vehicle, you must get out and look every time before you put the vehicle in reverse. And that's a policy that seems very wise to me. I had a truck at my previous employer that had a backup camera and the big monitor right there on the dashboard, but it also had a second camera that looked out the curbside of the truck. And I didn't use that camera going down the road very much, but I would use it in low visibility conditions, especially in the dark when maybe it was rainy or a little foggy. We used to clock in at 6 a.m. and for much of the year you just can't see when you're first getting underway. And that right-hand camera, the curbside camera, had a great low light capability, and I would use it to check my position in the lane to make sure the right-hand side of the truck was not too close to the curb or the white line over there. So cameras are great. Big fan of them. More cameras, better. I've seen other solutions on both dump trucks and transit buses that used sonar, radar, something else, looking behind the truck, and there'd be a beeping noise or flashing lights. It wasn't always a plus. Sometimes it was just distracting. And so, once again, I think cameras are the best technology solution. And behind the truck, getting out and looking is for me the second best choice. The front of the truck has a blind spot that it's very hard to overcome. I remember one morning I'd finished my pre-trip. I was doing the last bit of paperwork and about to put my truck in gear and pull out of the yard. And a friend of mine was walking down the line of trucks right near the bumpers and stopped in front of my truck to talk to someone or to bend over and pick something up off the ground or whatever. And he left my field of vision. And I was aware enough to go, whoa, where did he go? After a minute, he came back into view and then walked on down the line of trucks. The reality is you have to know what's in front of the truck. And if you don't, especially if it's a person, then you could have a really big problem. I want to thank you for joining me on the channel today. Subscribe if you haven't done so. Hit the like button if you found today's video useful or interesting. I hope to see you again soon on the Dump Truck Toolbox.